Hi everyone, Happy New Year and welcome back to Decorate Your Table with Brenda. We're going to start off the new year with a superhero birthday party and game. And stick around because later I'm going to show you how to make these really cool looking little superhero signals. Starter table, I used a nice royal blue tablecloth because when you see a lot of comic books, that's one of the major colors. I made my track. I wanted the pieces pretty big because if you're going to use like little action figures, you need room for them to stand. So I've done about 2 inches by 6 inches. I just used some white paper, drew some lines, and then where I needed to, I joined them together just to make the track longer and to make it go around. Then I used some red and some blue. So what I did for these is, on these I wrote little directions. So the reds I made stops and the blues I made go forwards. So the reds, so like this one, Iron Man's birthday, go back 1 space for cake. And then you can use a little bit of two-way tape, two-sided tape. And just put it down. So you can kind of look around and see where you want to put your reds and your blues. I also had another idea for the reds and the blues, which I'll explain later. So for my street, I just got some boxes. This actually still has some rice in it. Wrapped them in paper and made them into buildings. When I was doing them, when they were all finished, I had done these yellow and green and blue ones in white paper, and they looked a little too plain and too dull, so I went back and painted them. But you could be much simpler by just wrapping them in colorful paper. I used these colors because they're primary colors and they look good in comic books and things like that. Then I drew little windows and doors, even numbered them. And on the side buildings I drew little fire escapes, and they're just simple little touches, but they just add that little bit more whimsy to it. Like I was saying with the board, I have these red and blue squares. So if you were doing it for very young children, having just the simple directions on the cards is easy. Older kids, you can have cards that go with the blue and the red, so when they land on red or blue, they have to pick up a card. So for older kids, you could have questions, and you could make the questions harder or easier depending on the age group you're playing for. Or you could just simply have directions, like Dr. Strange shows up to help fight the vulture, go forward 3 spaces. Then that way when they land on a red spot, even if someone comes behind them and lands on the same red spot, they're not getting the same directions. They may have to answer a question, they may have to move forward 2 spots or back 3 spots. So it keeps the game a little different for each kid. So in my house, it's long been a discussion of who's the best superhero, Spiderman or Batman. It always seems to come down to these two. So we decided to make today's table about Spiderman. So we're going to put Spiderman onto the board. This Spiderman hangs with a little magnet, so I put on a little dowel of the building so that he hangs there. Then I got some Batman. I have a Batman sitting here on the bank and he's watching. I also have a Superman, and we can put him on the game. We'll put him in the back so that when you come around the corner, there's something to look at. If you can find this size of a little action figure, they're a great size for the board. Whoops. Gwen Stacy doesn't like to stand up. My kids are all older, and so when I was doing this, I asked them did they have any action figures, and they laughed at me, but we found a few. Okay. So if you have a lot of kids playing the game, part of the reason I made the board so big was that you could have quite a few of them on the board at the same time. And you don't have enough little action figures. You can make little tokens like these. And I simply got some stickers, put them on cardboard, and then cut them out. And you can get all the different characters, even if you're just using just Spider-Man. There's different Spider-Man you could put on there. But I've got all the Avengers here. Captain Marvel, Ant-Man, Black Widow. Okay, so each player can pick a different character. Then it's just a matter of they roll the dice and it tells them how far to go. You can use 1 dice, 2 dice, depending on how fast you want the game to go. If you've got a lot of kids, I would use 2 dice to get them moving around the board faster. They have to start and they have to get to the finish. And it gives them something to do while they're sitting at the table. Then, like I said, Spider-Man was our pick for today because he was the hero of the moment. So I simply went to the, actually I got these at Walmart. I got some, there's lots of paper plates with all your favorite superheroes. So I got some Spider-Man. I also put them inside these red dishes because it makes them stand out just that little bit more. We have some Spider-Man napkins. We'll just put them in the glass so that they're looking at the kids. For today's craft, we're going to make these signals. You can do a Spider-Man or a Batman. And this is what they look like on the wall. So let's get started. So I'm going to make these little signal lights. I did look up a bunch of different ways to do it on YouTube, but I didn't really see any that I liked and they thought were easy enough to do. A lot of them involve tubes and elastic bands and everything, and I found when I tried it, a lot of the tubes collapsed. So I came up with this different idea. I went to the dollar store and I bought a bunch of coffee cups and they came with lids. And I think I got, there was 8 in a packet for $2 or something like that. So if you're doing a party, that's perfect. So you get your cup. I bought these little flashlights at Home Depot. They're just the right size. They're $2.50 each, and like I said, they're the perfect size. And I like them too because the on-off switch is on the bottom. So when you put them into the cup, you don't have to worry about trying to reach the sides to do the on and off switch. So we're going to start with our cup. We're going to take our flashlight and we're going to draw around it just with a marker and then use that as our starting point. See, just like that. Then I'm going to take my knife. This is maybe something you want to do ahead if you're going to let the kids do the craft. Okay, just like this. And I'm going to kind of push the edges out a little bit just to get it started. I'm going to thread our flashlight through. It's not so far. Then if you can see the little triangles from where you cut it out, I'm going to use some duct tape or some kind of tape, and we're just going to tape them down to the flashlight so they don't move. And this is going to hold our cup in place. So now, like I said, these come with lids, and this works out perfectly. The lid has a raised edge. So first of all, we're going to cut this part out. It even has a little starting point for you. So these cups were made to be signals. And again, depending on the age group of the kids you're working with, they can do this part themselves. When my kids were younger, I worked as a beaver leader. So those kids ranged in age from senior kindergarten to grade 2. So their abilities differed. So for some, we would have to do things like this, and for some, the older kids, we could let them do it themselves. My next part was I used this 2-way tape. So going around this ridge, I put the 2-way tape all the way around. Let's cut that off. All right. And I put the plastic on top. I found this worked really great. I got a Ziploc bag. Cut it out, or I use my duct tape again to mark it. And I cut it out. I was saying how I worked with
for Scouts Canada with the beavers when my kids were younger. And that's part of the reason this game came about, because when we were doing different activities with the kids, one of the nights we would have would be a board game night. And believe it or not, they loved it. It was always one of our really popular nights. So I thought, well, this would be a good game for that age group. And if you do a big enough track like I did, they can play together because they love that. So we take our circle, and the nice thing about the Ziploc bags, like I said, is you get 2. And we're going to set it on top of the lid, and then just kind of press it down, press it into the two-way tape. And the more taut you can get this, the better, because then you don't get as many wrinkles when you shine your light on it. So then you go around and just tighten it down to make sure it's on there nice and tight. Then I would have a bunch of pre-cut little Batman or Spiderman for the kids, and they can pick which one they like. A little bit of two-way tape works for these as well. Set it onto our light. So here we have our Batman. We just put it on. Turn it on, and there we have our signal. And there's nothing kids this age like better than flashlights, so this should go over really well with them.
So remember, this game can be modified to fit your family's favorite superhero. It could be Batman, Spider-Man, it could be the Avengers, it could be Justice League, whoever the tops is in your family. And I'm sure they all have an opinion. Please join me next week. We're going to go back to adult time, and we're going to do a spa brunch for the ladies. So please hit subscribe, and I'll see you next week.